Hello everyone, I'm Jeanette Camping from Henry Stewart Events. I'd like to welcome you to our latest webinar, Wowing Your Audience with a Perfectly Integrated Content Supply Chain, sponsored by CI Hub. Thank you all for joining. It's great to see such a large global audience of DAM professionals registered today. There will be time during the webinar for Q&A, so please do send in your questions. And we're recording today's session, and you'll all be sent a link to view again later. Now it's my great pleasure to welcome our presenters, Andreas Michalski and Michael Kraeftner. Thank you both for joining us today, and over to you, Andreas.
Jeanette, thanks a lot for making that possible again, and thanks for the intro. It's really a pleasure to be here and talk with Michael about one of the hottest topics we just saw last week in Las Vegas for the Adobe Summit. It's talking about the integrated supply chain, or they call it the integrated digital supply chain. This is one of the hottest topics in the moment. And I'm really happy, Michael, to have you here and talk about the vision and the reality, on how CELUM has created their solution around the supply chain. This is really amazing. Michael, maybe you'd like to introduce you. Most of the people in the audience will know you already. CELUM is around for, well, I don't know, how long are you around?
Well, we are around for some time now, more than we're doing digital asset management and its surrounding components now, as we are a content supply chain management platform by now, but we're in the market for more than 20 years. And wow. Yeah, that's a long time. So hi, thank you for having me. My name is Michael Kraeftner. I'm founder and CEO of CELUM.
Great. Let me start with a short intro on we as CI Hub see the content supply chain and how we try to help our customers with it. Let me just see if I can switch the slide here. I don't know why. The mouse doesn't work. Okay, so let's start. I give you a short 5 minutes overview on CI Hub, and then it will be a pleasure that Michael gives you an intro in CELUM and really shows you on how efficient a good integrated system will help customers solving their supply chain issues and make marketing more productive. Yeah, at the end, we're all discussing about efficiency, and this is also something what is driving us as CI Hub. We really love the idea of an integrated supply chain because we started with our CI Hub as, how can we connect easily to assets? And at the end, it's about reducing the digital distraction and make the work with different systems so much easier, because at the end, the amount of systems involved in our daily work is increasing so much that it is really an efficiency driver if you can consolidate everything within one system. And this is all about what we do at CI Hub. So we have already integrated into 65 different systems. One of that is CELUM. I know Michael since almost 20 years because we worked together in our former company already. And it's really cool to see how a very open system with an amazing API integrates into our CI Hub. And with that, delivering all of that content into all of the applications that are relevant for the users to work in. And we believe that we can reduce digital distraction if you find your assets, your work tasks, always at the same place in whatever application you're using. So in the moment, we're supporting 23 different applications, and that's everything what's relevant in the corporate environment in the moment. So all the Adobe tools, the Microsoft tools, the Google tools, but also design tools like Figma and Sketch, but also WordPress and Adobe Experience Manager. And there's so much to come, which really makes it easy. If an organization has once decided to use the CI Hub and gets familiar with the way on how we work, it's the same across all of the different applications. And Excuse me. And at the end, there's a very nice study in the moment from the University of California in Irvine that the digital distraction from switching from one application to another application is 23 minutes for the most workers to come back from the mindset, from the task, from the concentration, if he's switching application or tasks. And we all know there is that amazing wording from Apple. There is an app for everything. And this is amazing, but it also comes with the caveat that if there is an app for everything, you have gazillions of very small apps that distracts users, and that makes it more and more complicated. And if you look at using creative content is something what is not a special situation like it was years before when someone had to create a presentation. Today, everything is visible. Many more people are getting in touch with creative assets than before. Then the efficiency we're talking is something what is really, really important. And we believe that, and you know that situation from today, that different applications all behave different. Yeah. So if you have a CELUM system, that works different than if you have a Dropbox. And the reality in the work life is that we see that an average user has 3.7 different sources he needs to complete his work. And that might be a CELUM system for having all of these assets. And we will see that also have your work organized in it. But other companies don't have an integrated system. They have an Asana or a Workfront system for their tasks. They have a Dropbox to sharing something with their agency. And maybe they have an Adobe Stock or a Getty Images to get their assets or to purchase new assets they need. Or sure, you have something like ChatGPT or something to create images on demand. But it's still a source that has different interfaces that works different. We do believe that with a CI Hub, which consolidates all of these things, it will be so much easier because you set up your connection to your preferred system once. So one connection to your CELUM system, one connection to your ChatGPT, one system to your Adobe Stock. And then it doesn't matter if you're in an Adobe application, in that case here in Illustrator, or if you're going into a different application and it's not working. So it would show you a PowerPoint slide, or if you're in a Google Slides application, the CI Hub interface would make it easier to work with all of these different things and then allow you to consolidate that. Coming to consolidation, and we all know that this is important because central systems like a CELUM systems are not longer just a store for your assets. It's a central work hub, it's a central platform, which at the end helps you also distribute the content into different applications, into your website, or into your social media channels. So these things become more and more important, and it's really impressive to see on how this has been solved in real life. And Michael, with that, I would love to hand over to you and understand and give the audience a little bit more of an insight in how you view the world and how that would work. Michael.
Well, thank you, Andreas. That was
You're welcome.
Very insightful, and I cannot agree more. So next slide, please. I'm talking.
1 second.
Yep.
1 second. 1 second. I get that. I don't know why my. Hast du eine Idee, warum das blöde Ding nicht geht? So there it is.
Okay. So I think that pretty much puts it to where what we think about the stuff that we do, and quite frankly, we believe that our technology can help brands to make their products stand out in our digital world. Andreas showed this amazing, blocks that showed how many people are now, as consumers, still, partaking in actually being in a very interactive / content, even content producing position where like 4 billion people are watching, so to say. And of course, with such a big audience, and of course, even more content creators compared to where we have been like 10 years ago, it's important that brands are able to put their great products into, so to say, a position where they can be presented in a great way. So long story short, what we at CELUM do is we turn content complexity into revenue opportunity for our customers. And that pretty much says it. And yeah, hey, that's me again, but still you see me. So what we try to actually achieve is sit down and actually this is what we did in the last 20 years. We watched how also our customers grew from where they were back then to where they are now. And nowadays, they have to do a lot of stuff together with content to be actually able to, from organizing photo shootings and the according, let's say, image collection, image selection, stuff that runs, so to say, in means of defining all assets of a content cluster that are around a piece of product, so to say. So that would be product content management. It's all about different means there, managing vast volumes of content, stuff like that, enforcing copyrights, obtaining legal reviews and approval for marketing collateral from, let's say, product managers, etc. So what we figured that this is actually a supply chain, but for content. And it starts with creation and approval, runs through finding and managing, goes through routing and sharing, and essentially at the end of the day, it's all about creating excitement and gaining insights. This is a 4-chain link content supply chain that we think is what brands need actually to compete in this attention game that we are seeing nowadays. So next slide, please, Andy. Yes, brands need to establish a content supply chain, and we want to deliver the technology part to that, because of course it's a big process game as well. Obviously, Andreas also said that so to say, it needs to be a supply chain and it needs to be highly integrated. Adobe, for example, sees it the same way, and this is where we want to offer our technology. So next slide, please. Because we think, and this is where, so to say, we are still a dam at some part of this, let's say, broader offer that we're bringing to the market, but it's just, so to say, it's our DNA, obviously, but now we've become much more, essentially a content supply chain management platform, taking care of those at least 4 chain links. And I'm pretty sure that in the future, we're going to see stuff like generative AI that will probably add a 5th chain link in there. But still, it's about creation of content, regardless if it's done by a human or a computer. Next slide, please. And this is our platform from a functional perspective. This is what we do. And later in a couple of seconds, when I'm gonna show you the integrated content supply chain part in a, again, very, very 30,000 feet view, but this is what we offer. Digital asset management, it's at the heart. Product content management as a specialist, a variant of digital asset management, online proofing, our take on working together, specifically between creatives, but also outside of creative teams. Audience optimized content portals, something that we're doing for some time now, but doing a big push there in May with our next upcoming spoiler big release. GDPR compliant file syncing and sharing, a lot of capabilities there, and of course integrations. And that would be now next slide, where obviously the whole idea of an integrated content supply chain comes to partake. And this is of course also where our cooperation with CI Hub resides, where in this case it's desktop and CMS, web experience management, where, so to say, this integration is key, but also of course other elements, so to say, that we, from our perspective and our broad approach to the content supply chain, think that integration is key and will be key even more so in the future. So next slide, and that's actually, I would say, the cue to enter demo mode.
So we switch to your screen.
We do.
You.
Yeah, so I hope everyone sees my screen. So I'm now taking the liberty to show a little bit, obviously our solution, but together with CI Hub. And this is where all the integrated stuff comes along. So what you see here is our main UI, starting in our content domain, where it's about obviously managing content and getting my hands onto content. And what I'm now doing, or I prepared a little bit, is a piece of content that I'm now, and in a second, going to use within CI Hub. So I'm switching to this, let's say it's a new piece of content. And from here, I'm going to use this piece of content in Adobe's Photoshop to create something. And again, those designers that are now watching, please have mercy on me, because my designer days are like nearly 20 years into the past. So starting with CI Hub, and this is, so to say, where my content resides. And here in new, I have this piece of content. So this is how the integration, obviously, with CI Hub within Photoshop works with technology like ours, directly accessing stuff, being able to search and navigate through this repository that we have here. And of course, then just dragging and dropping stuff in here, going back, picking another piece of content, saying, okay, there's quite attractive content here that I wanna use, and I'm probably gonna make this look a little bit better. And here we go. So, and putting the product in here. Now, saving that, and of course, being able to push that content back to CELUM. And now this is where the review and collaboration capabilities come into the picture, and I want to show them to you. So there is a tag called to be reviewed, and I'm gonna upload that asset directly from Photoshop into, oh, it has to be saved locally. I thought I did so. Yeah, now saving this into the to be reviewed. There we are, and now okay. So now I've directly saved back that file as an, in this case, Photoshop document, and now moving back into here. So here is the, on the to be reviewed, the file is now saved directly in CELUM. You see it here. And there's a little thing that happened here, because here now our content and work, this is our collaboration capabilities, work hand in hand. There's another little thing here that might be of interest, because I could have, instead of course, when I'm working in Photoshop, I'm obviously using CI Hub, but if I'm initially uploading stuff, then I would be using maybe our CELUM Drive application, very similar to Google's Drive, obviously, but much more enterprise controllable. And I could now manually sync in demo mode. I do this normally. I see here that here in to be reviewed as a new file, it's not synced down. I could have saved it locally, but of course, an individual file I would use CI Hub for, but for more files and bulk operations, I could use our synchronization tool. Now moving back to here, this file now is here and it's about to be reviewed. And where and how is it reviewed? This is in our work capability. And I prepared here something that we call a workroom. And a workroom is nothing else than a small project. And automatically, this is the BikeWatch PSD. This is exactly the file that I've dropped there. It has been automatically converted into a task. And now the colleagues from, let's say, legal, and I've added here a colleague, George, that plays the legal guy here. I'm actually married to our legal girl, so I didn't take the liberty to add her here. You know, lawyers. But George will play the role of the lawyer and our legal team, and he would now get a notification that there's a new task for him and that he needs to do something with it. And what he can do with that, that's actually where a little bit of what we call the magic starts, because our little project here, what we call a workroom, has some really nice capabilities. And one of them is a built-in visual workflow builder. So the people in legal would get a notification once it isn't to be reviewed, and then they could move stuff to approved, rejected, or to something that says needs revision. And quite frankly, this is also where automation comes into the picture. Another capability that we offer here, that of course, if something happens, so for example, the due date has been automatically assigned to be 7 days into the future, a new task has been created, and if something is being approved, it's gonna be moved or associated with another tag in CELUM, because then move the asset in the task list to the collection uploads new campaign. And this is exactly what I'm going to do here, acting as if I would be in legal, but of course legal never says it's okay. They would always say, listen, we need something here. So I'm going to ping myself and say, okay, maybe a little less precise language here. And that's the idea here, that this could be a visual marker. So they could say, well, okay, well, probably the word final is the one that they really have an issue with. And this would, of course, work for, we were seeing Illustrator, so that could be a multi-page document. We were seeing other Adobe applications, Premiere, for example. This could be a video where I could put these markers on a very precise timestamp and really flip through the whole video. And I could comment it, and for further reference in the future, I can even export all these comments that probably would now go back and forth and export them as an PDF. But of course, after some back and forth, they could now say, well, move it to approved, or do this by drag and drop. And now, again, something happens, because one important thing is that the asset here is gone. It's been taken out of this ongoing legal review project, so to say, and being put back, and now as finally approved into CELUM's content domain. And here we have this bike watch PSD, and it was here associated to that legal review workroom and is now ready to be used. And we see here a few other of the capabilities that CELUM offers, for example, an AI-powered similarity search that would offer similar content. And of course, I could now take a closer look at where it has been put. And there it is, reviewed by legal. This is, so to say, what the asset is now called. And now, being within CELUM, we would be able to add what we call an asset type. So we support different types of assets. And of course, at any point, I could now pick this ready, reviewed piece of content up again through CI Hub, let's say from Photoshop, or use this and place it in Microsoft's PowerPoint or any other presentation application that CI Hub is supporting as well. So we would now, by that, span the full, so to say, range of getting content produced, created, again, even by an amateur like me, done very easily, getting it approved, getting feedback on it, pushing it through a process. We would be able there to create all kinds of new version, keep track of metadata and other stuff. And then, of course, if once content is here, we would offer additional capabilities like download and a conversion, apply AI capabilities like extracting text or extracting objects automatically. I can manually activate this in a demo, but of course this would go completely automatic. And of course I could share stuff. We see here Microsoft Azure's AI tech. Now everyone is talking about OpenAI, which obviously is now very much consumed by Microsoft, and we are using Microsoft technology here. So this gives you full access on all the Microsoft AI magic. And of course I could then even use the web-based editor capability, where I could say, okay, well, I want to download something in 1000 by 1000 in a certain preset for, let's say, JPEG, and we can even write, of course, stuff into the JPEG from IPTC information, or to just re-render the file name once we output it. And of course, this goes without saying that this goes completely automatically into other systems, embedding them as CDN-ready dynamic links, for example, in web experience management systems, e-commerce platforms, etc. So I would say I'm timing-wise closing in on the end of my demo run. I would say back to you, Andreas, right?
That's amazing. Thank you. Let me share my screen again. So there it should be. Maybe you like to say something to this one? I think that's...
Yeah. Of course, if you guys want to stay updated on what we do all the time, that's CELUM.com. And if you want to take, so to say, a closer look on what we do blog-wise, go to CELUM.com/en for the English community and /de for the German speakers /blog. We are quite prolific in sharing information there. We would like to engage with the broader community much more. So use our blog as an entry point to getting in touch with us. And we are looking forward to, getting in touch.
So that was the advertising block. That short thing here. The rest is education. Let me take on where you left your demo, and I think this is really to see how integrated that can be and how efficient it gets. It gets even more valuable if you see the figures. And I stole some slides from the Adobe Summit last week in Las Vegas. And they did a study and said, 68%, 68 people they've asked, that it gets even more complicated to produce content on a global scale. And we had a lot of discussions, and I don't know how you see that, Michael, especially in these times where we also see a massive change in the workforce. We all, or most of you in the audience, I can see that, are really working in DAM and asset management for quite a long time. But with all the independent creators, with all the social media contributors, with all the younger people coming into the organizations, it gets harder and harder with very specialized tools and workflows to get them involved and to get really quality work back. They have shorter amount of time they need to deliver things. And then if we imagine that it takes 12 days in average to put content onto the market, 12 days. Yeah, this is this in our time frame now, this is a gazillion of years. Yeah. And if you have a news and if you have a product update or a product change and it takes 12 days in average, that's much too long. Yeah. And the third thing, what is really, really important is, and this is the benefit of the change in the workflow we do see, is people are not longer are happy if you say, oh, that was a nice creative. Today, a creative needs to deliver KPIs. So yeah, lots of people are not longer asking, oh, was it a nice ad or was that a good campaign or whatever. They want to see, what's the benefit I got out of it? Yeah, did that creative deliver what I want? How do you see that, Michael?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think these three numbers are spot on. And I think we are now in the age of, let's say, real-time marketing. So you pointed out that like 12 days is an eternity in the world of, let's say, social digital communication. And interestingly, when I started in our industry, I heard, and this again, 20 years ago, a long time, what I heard a lot in the early days was, well, we could use technology like yours, but and automate and automate processes by that, and save people time, but we can actually just throw more people on it. And I think this is another thing that has changed. Now, every human is a scarce resource. So, and I think this is also something where we now see a paradigm shift, where organizations can not just afford throwing more people on it because they don't have those more people, because they need to do with more or less the existing workforce or even a declining workforce much more than they did like 10 or 20 years ago. And I think this is why automation is such a big thing. And actually, it also has something to do with quality of life. People, you said younger people coming in, having a much more let's say, proactive view on what they do all day long at work. They want to do, exciting stuff. They don't want to, search for crap half a day because it's somewhere buried in the file system of like somewhere on a server, and then don't, stuff like that. This is just something people don't want to. They don't want to bother with that kind of stuff anymore. And this is exactly all that. And then for 12 days, this is still amazing.
Yeah. This is really what you see. What drives customers a lot in the moment is, how do we cope with real-time marketing? How do we get things closer and faster? Yeah. How can we make it easier? And your approach to supply chain management and have lots of these functionalities within one application makes it so much easier for the average user to use all the capabilities instead of switching to different systems and having to understand all of these systems. And that's not just the user, it's also the organization, what we say. Every system needs to have an administration. Every administration takes time. Connecting different systems is a lot of effort. So I think this is something what will not change. And if we look at the next picture here, and it's nice you have that green circle there. This is the old approach. That's the marketing guys. They had all of these systems, but now all of these systems are opening up. Everybody in the organization should leverage what you have, and even if you have your in-house or in-home attorney, in other organizations, these are completely different organizational stacks. They have no idea and clue. They are not integrated in these typical processes, but they have to. And the only way to get them in there is if you have systems that really easily connects.
This is an amazing visualization again, and I think there's, especially when we have a three-body problem. That's from mathematics, but what we in marketing see is currently a three-body problem. There are diversified workforces, and that means you have more locations, you have people in home office, so you need a glue in means of collaboration to stick them all together within your organization. Then of course you have much more collaboration across your original organization. That could be because of acquisitions. It's still kind of one company, but it's still different organizational boundaries, and of course it means different teams, like it is shown here. So classic approach and of course new teams. And then at the same time you have the need, and that was on the last slide, where organizations, brands want to have much more governance over, let's say, content operations, know what works and being able to react swiftly if something doesn't work. Because at the digital shelf, it's important to understand why a product is not converting if it's a great product. And in 8 out of 10 cases, that's because it's poorly presented. And you don't want to have your potential customers go to a platform where they can, and this is what happens nowadays. Some brands are really struggling hard to get their content, regardless how could they manage it, how could they create it, but then at the end to get it out to the digital shelf. And then of course their consumers are actually turning to platforms that are compare product platforms that offer, however they did that, sometimes even better content to products than the actual vendors or makers digital offerings. But of course there's all your competitors there. So a consumer will definitely take a closer look at a couple of your competitors then, and the likeliness of a conversion sinks rapidly. And I think this is something, these three topics together are really a problem and can only be solved with a lot of glue, a lot of transactional and process glue in the middle. And this is, so to say, where our two platforms come into the picture.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see that these benefits are even extending. So what is a big topic also is the increased asset reuse. This is something what, especially with the discussion about ChatGPT and all of these AI services, is really driving it. How can I find and use what I already have? This is something what is really important. It doesn't make always sense to either acquire new stuff from a stock provider or even have people that are creating what was never there before they typed these 3 words into the system. So that's really important, and that's across all of the departments. And then share, distribute, and increase collaboration. I think this is a huge topic. Yeah. The point what you said, faster approvals, and it's not always that assets needs to be approved by a lawyer or by your in-house legal team or your branding team. Yeah. But it's also other things. There are product topics where you need to have the product owner involved if product features maybe change and needs to be approved. Yeah.
Exactly.
And we saw just a recent case where customers got questions over a social media channel. In that case, it was a LinkedIn stuff. Yeah. Where customers asking specific questions. That was not before there. And then they had to get it through the organization, combine it with a description asset from the DAM system, with information from the PIM systems, and then again play it out after it was approved by the product team out to the same channel. Someone who is asking these questions in LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, they don't expect that it takes 2 weeks, yeah, to get an answer. That post is gone. You will never find it again there. Yeah. So that needs to be really quick. So this is really important. And then the single source of truth and the improved customer engagement, and that can have different facets to it, because improved customer engagement means I need to understand the KPIs. And if I now have 7 different channels for a campaign, then I would like to see a combined result of all of that. Yeah. In history, it was easy to know who watched the TV spot. Yeah. But you never really know if you spot it. Today we have all of these channels, but it's really challenging to get the result on one campaign through all of these different channels, which may have different metrics. Yeah. Combined into an information maybe on the next day when the boss wants to see it. Yeah. And get all of that combined. And this is a really important thing for a platform like CELUM to combine that stuff, right? Or how do you think?
Absolutely. So talking about, there is this HR and employee experience, and there's one of my personal it's a favorite project because it seemed so strange at the very beginning. One of our larger projects we did in the last couple of years is a big utilities company, and they have, I don't know, about 11,000 people that are actually having a desk job. So for those 11,000 people, their idea was to have, like, when one person rings the other, they have the modern phones or even a digital phone app on the computers. They want to see a face, specifically now when everyone is working remote. So sounds great. Thing is, then the trade union comes in and says, listen, people should be actually, and this is, you have the right of your own photo, obviously. So even if I'm an employee, but God forbid if I'm I'm not working there anymore, I want to make sure that I can decide where my photo is being used. And that's a very interesting use case with 11,000 people having absolute control, more or less in real time, where their content is being used. It's like a mini social network situation. And we had to cover that and of course integrate with their phone application, their internal, the CRM, the email system, Microsoft's Active Directory for sharing, or Asia AD for sharing, the little photos you get in your emails, and in Microsoft Teams. So this is really, it was really a challenging project, but in its microcosm, it showed exactly the challenges that there are, from a legal perspective in this case, and trade unions in the picture. But it was exactly more or less going through all that. It was about sharing and distributing, increased collaboration, fast approvals, fast processes. 12 days, their original, the trade union offered, I think, within 60 seconds, there should be a reaction. That's, of course, not realistic, talking about monstrosity of connected systems. But it's all about here, even in a completely exotic use case, and this is what we advocate to our potential customers more than once, is do not underestimate the complexity. We hear too often that customers, large logos even, talk about, we need something simple. Essentially, simple is good in means of user experience, but you still have a lot of complexity to manage. And just look at your product offering. Just look at the number of employees, for example, that you have, and the channels you deal with. Like here, customer engagement across multiple channels. So that's all a big check mark on that visualization.
Yeah, absolutely. We are moving on with the time. We have a couple of questions, and as this is almost the last slide before, in addition, one ad in here, and our last slide was questions. I would love to go into the questions if that's okay with you, Michael.
Perfect.
I have that question. What do you believe? Who will lead the creative processes for content creation? Brands, agencies, or something totally different? How do you see that is the question? Or how do we see that?
That's an excellent question. I think we touched this before a little bit when it was about governance. I think that brands want to have more governance, even if they still employ a vast variety of content creators. That could be, some years ago, everything was about user-generated content. That turned out to be, again, for some brands in some scenarios, pretty helpful. Overall, less, less that thing that the hype experience promised. But I think it depends. Well, that's another lawyer answer. But I think the overall thing is that the brands will become more governing, not necessarily driving creative production, obviously. I will see, in software development, the whole, GitHub and Co, they're all now starting, Microsoft is offering in their IDEs already that you have an AI co-pilot for what you do. I see this happening for creatives a lot. And of course, there will be something that we are looking very closely at right now is generative AI, where AI is actually taking content that has been, at the core, a human creative production, and then put it in context, meaning, I don't know, changing, in the background, there's the Sierra Nevada versus the Austrian Alps, depending on where you're going to play
Location.
out that content.
Yeah.
And probably exactly stuff like that, or, switching the kitchen if you are selling kitchen appliances, because kitchens in Germany look different from the ones in France, even though the actual, the dishwasher is still the same product, but the kitchen looks differently. There's a lot of baguettes in France,
absolutely. Yeah.
a lot of sausages in Germany. So I think that's, or Austria. So therefore, I think this is going to happen. So it's going to be governed by brands, led by creative still, but much co-piloted by new and emerging technologies.
That brings me to the question we also have here is around governance. So around governance, I think we have touched that topic, but at the end, more governance, more KPIs, more informations could actually lead to get more creative processes in-house and have a more tactic way on how to work between the customer and an agency. Do you see that happen? Is it also changing the relations to your typical partners, or how do you see that changing in the future?
Well, that's another kind of tricky question. Of course, has something to do with, again, how processes in general are going to evolve with the advent now of emerging technologies, for example, generative AI. But I think, again, governance doesn't necessarily mean in-house everything. I think the human creative touch and human ingenuity will also in the future play a very big role, specifically for key brands. But of course, there will be a lot of, again, in talking about basic automatable stuff, that's something where we're going to see a shift. If there are out creatives or agencies that have as a business model doing this stuff that is actually something a computer could do better, this is another automation revolution. We had this in the Industrial Revolution 150 years ago, more than 200 years ago, and we're going to have this again and again and again, and this is going to probably happen there. But I think creation and the human touch to creation is something that's untouchable to a certain extent.
Okay. I have a wonderful, very technical question. The question is, if I upload an image into the CELUM system, does the CELUM system automatically generate variations in different sizes and maybe different types on the fly to the user?
Exactly. So that's what we do. That when so to say content is ingested and prepared for output, we normally automatically by, again, powered by AI, try to identify where's the important section of content within the content. So typical, the biker that we've seen, obviously, if I do landscape versus portrait mode auto adoption, I want to keep the biker still in the picture and not just have the background and the road in it. Of course, this can be overridden by a human that says, okay, well, no, in this case, we just want to have, I don't know, a piece of the bike in it, whatever. And we do this fully automatic and dynamic if need be.
Okay, that's cool. One question here, which is not really related to CELUM. Can the CI Hub connector be used to upload assets from SharePoint to AEM assets? Yes, it can be used for that. This is the beauty that you can connect to all of these different systems. And can there be a hot folder or watch folder type scenario where it is automated? Not today, but we will introduce a couple of automations this year. And maybe you just stay tuned or subscribe to our newsletter. This will be definitely something which is coming. There is a last question here, which is around the generative AI discussion in general. How do you believe it will change the way on how the content supply chain and the creative work will be influenced by that? Yeah. Do you have a view on how you see that as CELUM?
Well, as said before, I think what we're currently seeing all over the internet, I'm having ChatGPT create an avatar for my LinkedIn profile and stuff like that. So this is fooling around. That's first of all, it has a lot of digital rights management implications. We see the first lawsuits now emerging because the LLMs, the large language models that are creating that, or the basis for the algorithms to make decisions, actually are stolen content to a certain extent, stolen by, is it stolen? Whatever. That's going to be interesting to watch, like how this will unfold. But as I said before, I think there's a lot of, we're going to see a lot of co-piloting. I think that's going to happen a lot, and we're going to see stuff that will help brands to put their product, for example, in different contexts. That there might be a revolution when it comes to product configurators, something like that. This is what I could imagine, that the AI will help what is now a tedious job and always needs a lot of human work. But that might be an interesting thing that's even more important when we're talking about, you mentioned the kinds of products, and that 12 days of content creation is a long time. If you have a product where you have like a lot size of 1, meaning you can super customize that, whatever it is, a sneaker or your car, of course, there's no way that 12-day content production is possible. You wouldn't wait 12 days to get content and back on your purchasing point there, and then say, okay, cool, now this is how the car would look like, and now I've waited 12 days, so no thank you. So that's definitely gonna change there a lot as well. So that's what I would see. And of course, another where the 12 days will really be a hindrance, and this has nothing too much to do with AI, but something I wanted to say before is, of course, now we have products, more and more products that are hybrid, that have a physical component to it and kind of software to it. And if you look at Teslas and other cars now, where they update a large portion of user experience relevant capabilities. So if you print the brochure for, I don't know, the new Mercedes EQS class, and then they do an update to the user interface, the car stays the same, but actually all your marketing collateral needs to be redone because now it looks a little bit different. Same has been done by Tesla, etc. So probably either AI is going to play a role there, and of course it has a lot of implications on how quick you need to be in your then presumably digital storefronts.
Cool. Michael, it was a pleasure to have you here. It was really cool to see how you see the world, how your solution helps customers creating a better and more efficient way of working. I'm really proud that CI Hub can be a part of that. That's really cool. It's really easy to all of you listening to us to test it out. So if you're a CELUM customer, go to the CELUM store or go to the Adobe or the Microsoft or the Google or the Figma store, search for CI Hub and download it and then test it with your CELUM instance. It works really amazingly well. And I do think everybody will be happy to use the next 10 minutes to grab a coffee if you're in North America, or go home a bit earlier. Yeah, so again, I do say thank you, Michael. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Henry Stewart, for organizing all of that. That was a pleasure. We will send out an email with the link to the recording, and there are our contact addresses, and feel free to stay in touch. And we will be back in about 4 weeks with a new webinar, and hope to see you there. And if there are questions in between, just ask. Thanks a lot.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.